Petrol prices going up in public holidays is one of the myths that has been perpetuated in our industry for some time. And I suppose it's reasonable to understand that, because if you think about the way petrol prices are actually made up, it depends upon what's the oil price doing, what's the exchange rate that I'm paying because I'm buying oil in US dollars, what are the refineries doing, what's the relationship between global supply and demand, and what's the shipping and freight costs look like. Now that's all before the fuel lands on my shores. And then beyond that, it's a case of what's the market competition actually look like? What's the petrol price cycle actually doing in terms of volatility? All that creates incredible complexity. And for all of us as human beings, we sort of look at that complexity, and when you've got complexity, people say, oh, it's all too hard, I think it's this, and you boil into these conspiracies. The one good thing in our industry is we're one of only 2 industries in the country, the other one being stevedoring, where the ACCC has powers that have been given to it by the federal government to step into our businesses to be able to look at their finances, what they're paying and what they're charging. Now, for reasons of commercial sensitivity, that is never disclosed in the market, but it means the ACCC is able to monitor what's actually going on. Now, the ACCC, some years ago, looked at this issue of, petrol prices always go up when there's a long weekend or when Christmas or Easter actually occurs. And what they found was really interesting. 1/3 of occasions they go up, supporting the conspiracy. 1/3 of occasions they stay the same. And 1/3 of occasions they actually go down. So it sort of doesn't support that theory that whenever I get a public holiday period, because I've got lots of fuel and people basically are caught to buying fuel, therefore I'm going to actually look at opportunistic pricing. It's also worth noting though that when you look at our behaviours sort of pre-pandemic, everyone used to fly or transport elsewhere. There wasn't that sort of hangover of what we used to do in the 70s and 80s where we all jump in the car and we'd head off down the coast. That sort of behaviour doesn't exist as much anymore. So while we get some seasonality in service stations, it's nowhere near the level we used to get in public holidays when we were actually dealing with the situation sort of 30 years ago. But important to note, the ACCC says on that one, they're calling it, it didn't pass the facts. And so just to reiterate, public holiday times, 1/3 of the times it goes up, 1/3 of the time it stays the same, and 1/3 of the time it goes down. The biggest determinant is, does that public holiday coincide with a capital city price cycle? Because that's the dominant force. We don't have a price cycle that goes up and down and then competition's all of a sudden interrupted because there's a public holiday. That's just nonsensical.